the sacred mantras of the Vedas into her ears, and she passed away listening to that. That's the greatest boon and the greatest blessings that a mother can have, and also a son or daughter can have. To conclude this point, I can quote another verse from Manu Smriti. Manu was the great lawgiver who lived around 1500 BC, who has given a set of principles as to how to regulate our life according to Vedic tradition. He says, Upadhyaya Dashacharya Acharya tu Shatam Pida Sahasrena Adhigam Matuhu Gauravena Atirichyate. It's a famous verse in the Manu's document. Law is law. Now, Upadhyaya is a lecturer. If I'm coming here as a guest lecturer, I could be called an Upadhyaya. A professor who teaches you a set of course or is presiding over a department is called an Acharya. The respect to be given to a professor, an Acharya, is 10 times the respect you should attach to a guest lecturer, Upadhyaya. And then Acharya to Shatampita, the honor and respect that you should give to your father is 100 times as much as the respect and honor you give to your father, your Acharya. And Sahasrena Adhigam Matu. And the respect that you should give to your mother is 1000 times as much as the respect you give to father. So Upadhyaya Dashacharya, Acharya to Shatampida. You should respect the professor as much, 10 times as much as you respect the guest lecturer. And you should respect your father who gives you the initial education when you're growing up is 100 times as much as the respect you give to your professor. And the respect with which you should treat your mother is 1000 times as much as the respect you give to your father. Sahasrena Adhigam Matuhu. So Gauravena Tirichide means in ascending order of this reverence and respect and worshipful attitude. Now, this respect for mother is the very cornerstone of the continuity of human civilization. Once, I said to give an example of this recently, when I was invited to give a talk, which I referred to during my informal conversation with Professor Kini, when he came to a Vedanta Society about a week back. Now, I had to address an audience like you, somewhere in Pittsburgh, and some members of the audience put one question. The greatness of India's civilization and the greatness of Western, especially modern American civilization, and how we can benefit from both. So I said, both have their own good points, great good points. The Greco-Roman humanistic civilization, culture of modern Western world, and the great spiritual tradition of India. Then also there are problems, So in India, on the one hand, we have a great, well-organized system of family life. Sometimes a bit too well organized, going to the extent of a tyranny of seniority, tyranny of hierarchy, that stifles your innovation, your innovative spirit. That doesn't give you freedom to think for yourself, that doesn't allow you to stand on your own legs. So a 90-year-old grandfather advising a 60-year-old son, who again will advise his 25-year-old son, that means the grandson of the great-grandfather. So it goes on. That is the negative side. Now, if we can incorporate and blend together the innovative spirit of modern America and the freedom, the self-reliance, self-confidence, and the ability to take problems in our stride, and not to be shaken by problems. And a CEO may lose his job tomorrow, and then day after tomorrow he'll go to Trader Joe's and start packing earning $15 per day, and within a year he will build up another company. This could happen only in America, not in India. If a CEO loses his job in India, there will be divorces. He will be excommunicated by his own relations if he loses his job. But it doesn't happen. So if we can combine this sense of sanctity that we attach to family life, built upon the sacredness of the institution of family life, and the innovation, the freedom of modern Western world, there will be an ideal society, is what Vivekananda, the founder of the organization, to which I happen to belong, said. What we need today is a harmonious blending of the best elements of the Greco-Roman civilization, exemplified in modern West, and our own traditional spiritual values based on the sanctity of the institution of family life. That's Vivekananda said. And this sanctity is built upon the concept of mother. Because Hinduism is only religion which has got a feminine divine archetype. Our gods and goddesses are grand examples of this feminine divine archetype, which you don't find in other traditions to the same sublime level. So that's how I want to begin my talk. So, can I continue, or do you want to ask any questions?
No, I think we are on to something here.
Yeah.
Picking from what you said, right? That's the approach or the tradition, let us say. I think the interesting crossroads parents who bring their children up in America is if you observe the society in America, education is at the epitome of things that we undertake in this society.
Yeah.
So parents want kids to be educated well, either because that is how things are laid out, or they have not been probably provided with that opportunity back home, and now they say, hey, it's limitless, why don't you make the most of it?
Yeah.
However, in the society, if you observe, when kids do well, the school earns a higher degree of respect, and we call it the blue ribbon schools. When blue ribbon schools come about, it attracts a great deal of affluence. Why is it so? Houses around those good schools become high value, and only the affluent can afford. And very soon, affluence permeates into the school system. And it doesn't matter what route you come up with, eventually today's children have to struggle with the peer pressure.
Yeah.
So, you talk about gratitude, you talk about simplicity and purity. Very soon they're caught into branding. How are they going to present themselves before their friend circle? What is going to be your standing in participating at a peer level at elite shows and events rather than the root purpose for which you came into the educational system? How does one deal with it? Because I think most of those struggles are in the minds of the mothers and the fathers.
Yeah. If students do not feel that they have their own spiritual tradition that goes back to thousands of years, or which can be very proud, then there will be a tendency among them to imitate the negative aspects of another civilization. So very often, when we feel that we have nothing, when we are not aware of our own rules, and when we knowledge not enough, we should also be positively, creatively, not fanatically, but in a very creative sense, be proud of our culture. Then we will have a tendency to not imitate but imbibe, creatively imbibe the positive elements of another culture. This is a very important principle you have to keep in mind. If children can be taught about their own wealth, cultural heritage, which very few other civilizations in the world can be proud of. I'm not talking in a very parochial, ultra-nationalistic sense. Every nation in the world, every society, every civilization has made some unique contribution to the totality of human civilization. No nation, no civilization, no society can lay exclusive claims to superiority, and no society need be worried about any kind of perceived inferiority. But India's uniqueness is its spiritual values. And in this context, the sanctity that we attach to not only the institution of family life, and as you mentioned earlier, the institution of teacher. See, it's a very unique concept we have got. In fact, can I quote the Sanskrit verse which defines who is a teacher? You see, Guru is the Sanskrit word. So, Guru and Acharya are two different terms. Acharya is one who teaches you a subject. Guru, along with teaching a subject, also performs another very important function. He removes the darkness from the mind of the student, so he instills in the minds of the student the ability to learn from himself, which an Acharya may not necessarily do. I'm talking about Acharya in its purely empirical sense. Now, so that's why Gurustu Andhagarasya Rutya Vidhi, the meaning is Gustu Andhagarasya Rutya Tat Nirodhaka. Gu means a person who, Guru means a person who removes darkness from the minds of the student. So, Gustu Andhagarasya, Gu means darkness. Rustuta Nirodhaka, Ru means the one who removes that Andhagara, that darkness. So, Andhagara Nirodhitvat Guruhu iti abhidhiyate. So, Guru is called a Guru because he removes the darkness from our mind, not by showing a flashlight, but by instilling a light within our own heart, which we can ourselves flash when we need. That's it. Giving fish and giving a fishing rod, two different things. If you are taught how to fish, and if you are given fishing rod, then you will be able to sustain yourself. If you are given just fish, which I don't eat, don't listen. The point is, I don't know all about it. It's only a statement that comes from. You give a fishing rod and teach the student how to fish instead of giving a packet of fish, which may last a few hours. The other may last in whole lifetime. So, Guru is one who removes the darkness from our mind. That's why in our tradition, something very unique. See, the effectiveness of what we learn is in direct proportion to the respect with which we look upon our teacher. This is something very interesting. The effectiveness of our learning. See, if you want to make use of what you learned, then you need something more than just the theoretical understanding. You also need the ability to handle what you learn. The ability to handle, to make proper use of the learning that we get, which is called wisdom, which is different, which is higher than knowledge. Information is the lowest. Knowledge is higher, wisdom is still higher. Wisdom is the higher ability, capacity of our mind to make proper use of what we learned, and also to avoid making improper use of what we learned. So, a teacher alone can instill this higher wisdom in our heart. That's our tradition. That's why, Guru is considered to be a very important concept in our tradition. And it's coming to the subject. I already touched upon the subject. If our parents can teach children something about the positive aspects of our heritage, then they will know this is something that we have got. See, the patriotism of the Japanese, or the perfectionism of the Germans, the diplomatic skills of the British, of the English. Given God doesn't trust the Englishman, that's why somebody asked the question. why the sun never sets in the British Empire. Even God doesn't trust the Englishman in the dark, So, to that extent, of course, the diplomatic skill. So, all these countries, all these nations and societies had their own unique skills, no doubt about it. But India has got something equally unique, if not more. Our sanctity, our sacredness of human relations, including our relationship with mother, father, and teacher, which laid the foundation of our life. And again, our scientific and spiritual heritage, not only spiritual heritage. Those of you who know Indian history will know India produced outstanding medical scientists, Charaka, Susruta, Varahamihira, scientists, mathematicians, Bhaskara, and Aryabhatta, who still remember, and the great mathematicians who lived in 13, 14, 12, 13, 14th century, Samgrama, many others. See, look at, go to India, see our temples, the marvelous architectural designs. If you go to India, you still find great architects, engineers, not the products of the university education, but traditional architects who have preserved this tradition. If we go to Egypt, nobody knows how the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids. Ramses II, you can see and marvel, but the science that built the pyramids, we have lost. Go to India, the most ancient temples, you watch, you still find in India the great artisans, architects, preserve the tradition. That's why I can again quote one great statement from Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, he worked for 4 years in this country. Then he came in 1893, returned to India in 1897. He landed in Colombo in 1897, January. And next day, he gave a lecture in Colombo, Floral Hall. The Vivekananda makes a very interesting statement. That's something unique, which every student should be taught. The statement is this: if Manu returned to India today, he won't find himself in a strange, he won't be bewildered, he won't find himself in a strange land. It is not an ultra-nationalistic, jingoistic, parochial statement. What Swami Vivekananda was saying was this, something very interesting. Swamiji says, Manu was a lawgiver who lived maybe in the 15th century BC. 15, that means almost 3,500 years back. If he returned to India in 1897, he can still find many things, many wonderful things that existed in India in 1500 BC. See the Bharatanatyam, Mohiniyattam, any of the dance forms, the teaching, the musical teachings that many of our students received from the teachers. Many of these ancient sciences are architecture, our language. The first philosophical work on language was written by Bhartrihari Vakyapadiya. It belongs to 3rd century AD. Language, philosophy, architecture, music, many areas. I don't want to give a long list. This is something very unique that every Indian student can be taught to be proud of without being fanatical about it. So that's something very interesting we have to keep in mind. Not fanatical pride or jingoism or parochial feeling, but rather you should not think you are a pauper, you are a beggar. You too have something in your bank, cultural, spiritual bank. If you have, then you feel confident when you walk in the streets. If you feel you had nothing, you feel miserable. Then you want to learn the negative, the undesirable aspects of another culture. That's something very interesting. Why people feel that they should learn the negative, the undesirable aspects of another civilization? Because they feel they do not have anything worthwhile. You can learn the great, wonderful democratic values that America has contributed to modern political thought. The American Constitution itself is a grand example. Many wonderful things. All these European, many of the European countries, the ancient Greece, ancient Rome, and the musical tradition of Italy, of Germany, the diplomatic tradition of France and Britain, or the arts in France, the fashions, many wonderful things, and all these converge in the United States of America. It's a unique socio-economic political institution, actually. It's an example of the highest degree of egalitarianism, democracy, equality for all, at least legally. And it's true in many ways. So, this wonderful organization of social life, political life, national life, is something that Indians should be taught and learn. Punctuality, professionalism, professional excellence, leadership skills, discipline, the ability to come together without quarreling and work for a national for a common cause. The great values of modern Western civilization that we can learn. But frequently, students will not learn these things if they don't know that they have their own cultural heritage. If you are a beggar, then you will be looking for some trifles lying in the street. If you have your own bank balance, then you won't go for them. You go for something worthwhile, wonderful. You can read Lincoln, you can read George Washington's, you can read American Constitution, you can read William James, George Santayana, or maybe Emerson, Thoreau, Whitman, great thinkers. Instead of that, if our children, young generation goes for negative things, it's because they think they have nothing back home. So that's an interesting point. Psychologically, when I feel I have something which I can call my own, of which I can be proud with all justice, then I will learn good things from you. I have seen this in the case of many American Swamis. You know, our Ramakrishna order has got produced large number of American nuns and monks, including professors, eminent psychologists, great writers, have joined Ramakrishna order and become monks. You know, when they go to India, you know what they want to learn? They want to learn about Vedas. They want to learn about Indian philosophy. They want to learn about the marvelous philosophical tradition of Advaita, non-dualism. They want to learn about the Bhakti tradition, the spiritual heritage of India. Why? Because they themselves represent the best fruits of American culture, American civilization. So they want the best of India. Like that, if Indian students can be taught to be proud of not only just pride, they should be knowledgeable about it. Blind pride leads to fanaticism and negative attitude, or jingoism or parochialism. So without being jingoistic and parochial minded, we should learn to be positively proud of our tradition and culture. If students can be brought up in this atmosphere of balanced attitude, self-confidence, and a full feeling and understanding of their own traditional heritage, then I have noticed many Americans will be happy with you. They ask you, do you know anything about yoga? I don't know anything about yoga. You know anything about Vedanta, Indian music? No. But I know how to drink I know how, so, you know, I would like to be hippie. People have content for you. If you are from India, they will ask you questions about Vedanta, Indian heritage, Indian spiritual values, yoga, meditation. They'll be happy. That's why, you know, the British brought in America this diplomatic skill, heritage. French brought the art. Italians brought the music. Of course, they brought underworld also. But they also brought the great musical tradition, art, painting. Even Japanese brought the unique sense of patriotism, hard work, discipline. Germans brought their philosophical heritage, the heritage of Kant, Hegel, Nietzsche, all that. So all these nations have made very wonderful, positive contribution to the totality of American economic, socio-economic, political experiment. It's a marvelous phenomenon in modern world. Like that, Indians also have made a unique contribution. And many Americans, especially the well-educated Americans, are very much aware of it. I have met many of them. So you have to tell our new generation, youngsters, boys and girls, this is a marvelous, wonderful treasure that is yours. Something that you can be proud of without being fanatical about it. What do you say?
Actually, that brings me to a very interesting. So, this whole concept of a melting pot, right? It's probably even more exaggerated in the valley. And when you go to a workplace, it is less likely that you will go into an office and not find that blend these days. However, if you look at the day-to-day lives of professionals who go to work in the valley, there is a subliminal pressure built in to perform. Added to that is this element of pride that they are carrying with them because they've made it to where they wanted to be. As a result, it develops an unintended conflict, either with a coworker or back home, because in this race, what we famously call survival of the fittest or first among equals, I think they bring it upon themselves. However, the conflicts that get generated in the process somehow percolates back home and then becomes the order of communication. What is your suggestion to the youth and people who work in the valley, who have to balance life between work life and family life, to deal with conflict, and how to lean on spirituality and meditation to counter that?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, professionalism, work excellence, leadership skills, innovation, hard work, punctuality, all these are wonderful things. But they by themselves do not bring lasting peace, because there is such a thing as the problems of success. You have a wonderful job, plenty of money, everything going fine. Still, that doesn't guarantee peace and harmony within or friendly interaction with others. So, while working hard to succeed, and at least it may be necessary for your survival to struggle to be the first among equals, maybe in a modern ultra competitive world it may be necessary in workplace, but at the same time we have to keep in mind that work and success do not necessarily guarantee peace and happiness, lasting peace and lasting happiness. So in the Gita, there is a statement, Sukham atyandikam yattat buddhigrahim atintriyam. So work and success, prosperity, can give us satisfaction, but that satisfaction need not be lasting satisfaction. Another point, remember, is absolute mental peace and mental health, psychological health, is possible only at a spiritual level. Psychological problems have no permanent solution at psychological level. That's a very important point, remember. Psychological problems have permanent solutions only at spiritual level. Psychological mental problems have impermanent temporary solutions at the mental level, but permanent solution only at the spiritual level. So how to do this? We have to link ourselves to some higher spiritual ideal. Whatever we do, however we succeed, in spite of all that, we should remember there is something that goes beyond success. There is something that goes beyond work. Once we link ourselves to this higher transcendental ideal, we will be able to enjoy peace, because you cannot always succeed No one can live permanently in an atmosphere of success all the time. Every success will be followed by a failure, which again will be followed by a success. It's like up and down. That's part of life. So if you're happy when we succeed, then we'll be certainly unhappy when we do not succeed, when we fail. So there is one state of perpetual happiness that transcends both happiness and unhappiness as understood at the empirical level. That's called yoga. So how this link is called yoga. That the word yoga has got two definitions. One, use yoga and use samadho. Two definitions are there. Yoga here means joining, linking ourselves. Technically, Jivatma, Paramatma, Yoga. I'm not going to those Vedantic things in this context. This is a different context now. Here, linking ourselves. Whatever we do, however we succeed, we have to link our success and our action to some transcendental spiritual ideal. Then what happens, we will be able to stay healthy. Those of you want to get an idea of what this means can read Gita, Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 55th to 72nd verse, 18 chapters. Lord Krishna gives a list of the characteristics of a spiritually enlightened person. Siddha Prajna Lakshanani is called. Means the characteristics of a spiritually enlightened person. The 2nd chapter, 55th to 72nd verse. So Arjuna asked one question, Siddha Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya kesava. Who is a Siddha Prajna? Siddha Prajna is a person who is mentally healthy. That's a person. So the prasanna atmendriya mana sosthaga iti abhidhiyate. That Charaga sutras define a healthy minded person, prasanna atmendriya manaha. Prasanna means, prasanna is not just happy, in a state of complete restfulness, blissfulness and satisfaction, contentment. When you should feel bliss. What is bliss? Bliss is not just happiness. Bliss is a kind of inner experience which really is inexplicable or indescribable. Yeah, because experience can only be experienced. Experience can never be explained. But Sri Ramakrishna puts in a simple language, even if you drink this tea, and how sweet it was, you cannot write a big volume and explain how sweet it was. You drink yourself. So experience can only be experienced, can never be explained. This bliss is such a thing. Everyone is looking for this bliss. Another great warning that India's spiritual heritage gives us is, it's very important. When we succeed beyond limits, if in any area of specialization, there is one serious problem. That is, mind suddenly goes vacuum and it goes in search of some avenue, some channel, and then that's why some of the great musicians, artists, novelists, mostly in Western world, become alcoholics or drug addicts. Dostoevsky, my dissertation, one dissertation was on the 19th century Russian creative writing, mostly the works of Dostoevsky and the brothers of Karamazov, specializing in Grand Inquisitor. If you read Dostoevsky, you can understand. The most marvelous creative writer of 19th century. He's supposed to be far greater than even Shakespeare as a creative writer. He's a great genius, but is fully drunk. And great musicians, great painters, great artists. So I can give you an example. There is a verse in the Sanskrit. It comes in the Kalidasa's book. That verse I shall quote, I shall explain. This is Yappuman atimedhavi chadurnam ekamasnude atpayu anapatyova daridra patitopiva. This is one verse. It is half mythological, half psychological, absolutely psychological. A person who is highly gifted, at the empirical level, without a spiritual link, without this link. In other words, a person who doesn't meditate. If anyone try to succeed in art, literature, creative writing, business, business management, or running a factory, and if he succeeds beyond the limit, but doesn't care for any spiritual practice, either prayer or meditation, what happens is, this sloka says, Atimedhavi means he's extremely gifted, extraordinarily gifted. What happens? He will have one of these 4 problems. That is, one possible problem that he could be short-lived. That's why the verse is not fully scientific, but part of it is extremely scientific. That's what I'm going to focus on. He may be short-lived, or he may have a disturbed family life, or he may be poor, or he may have some perversions. Why? What happens, when we exert ourselves exclusively in one area, at the worldly life, in a worldly achievement, to attain worldly achievement, not spiritual achievement, art, literature, music, or business, anything. When we work too hard, without praying once, without meditating any time, without thinking of some transcendental value, what happens, after working so hard, the mind suddenly comes down with a thud. It hits the bottom. At that time, such a person may go in search of alcohol, drugs, or maybe even worse. That's what really happens. That's why if one wants to succeed and enjoy the fruits of that success, you must have success and you must also have meditation. Because meditation gives us the mental, psychological health to enjoy the results of success. Otherwise, we may succeed. At the end of the day, mind will be disturbed. Taking sleeping pills for getting 2 hours sleep, you will be a billionaire. What's the use of that kind of success? Taking the help of alcohol. Because suddenly the mind wants to move to another channel. So at that point, mind needs a support. If you meditate, if you pray, or if you practice some higher ideal in spiritual life, then you get the support for the mind. Otherwise, the mind will hit the rock bottom. That's why, in fact, that's the mystery of many of the great creative writers. Everywhere, all over the world, those who never care for any spiritual value, who just ignore or maybe even make fun, ridicule practices like meditation, go and work. So parents should be very careful. If you put too much of pressure on children, and I know many parents. In San Francisco, our Vedanta society is 117-year-old in San Francisco. So we started long before any of the Indian diaspora came to America. Long before. So we have met many people, and recently many Indian parents, Asian parents, who put so much of pressure on their children, pressing them to go to MIT to get the best grade, and some of them later, after desperation, going to the other extreme. Now I won't listen to you. You broke my life, and becoming hostile enemies of their own parents, who, with all affection, force them to study better, to go to MIT. So there is one problem. And they said they won't. So if you ask, why don't you bring your children to Vedanta society or go to temple? No, this is not the right time. Let them study. Well, that's why, if you don't teach children the lessons like Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, then children will put them in an old age home. If parents don't look after the children in their homes, The children, when they grow up, put them in old age home, as it's happening here. So this is one area where you have to be very careful. So without meditation, what happens, we won't be able to bear the stress, the strain of work. So one thing to remember is the work by itself should not be our supreme ultimate goal. Work is a wonderful means. Absolutely, very creative, positive means. That's why spirituality can be a wellspring of spiritual energy. It can be a life-giving vision. Not running away from life, but dealing with the life at empirical level with greater intelligence, with great higher wisdom.
Very nice, very nice. Since you're quoting with my limited understanding of the language of Sanskrit, one of the things I wanted to say was, see, inadvertently, there is an aspect of greed that creeps in.
Yeah.
To your point that you may be great, but if you don't have the balance, I believe it is said, Daridraya dosho guna rashi nashi, right?
Yeah.
Loosely translated, greed is the most dangerous canker, right?
Yeah.
So, that level of balance, from your observation, what is the right time to inculcate that? Yeah. So that, see, something that does not have a strong foundation seldom survives, the beatings of the weather. So what is the right time to inculcate that? And how can parents slowly try to exemplify it in their lifestyles?
Yeah. Well, school-going age, because we meet many parents who often tell me, they teach their children many wonderful things. And if an Indian father or Indian grandfather goes to school to pick up the son or grandson in the evening, and the child who is brought out in the house taught respect the grandfather, maybe showing some external signs of respect. But next day when the student comes, other children will make fun. Oh, your old fool came yesterday and you are getting up and showing him what's the use of it. So this happened. I can give you an example. This happens. It's nothing wrong in it, but this conflict of culture. But then there are also wonderful people who appreciate this. But very often at that age, they won't be able. They would like to be like others. They should be like others in study, in discipline. There are many wonderful areas. But some of the unique cultural values should be taught, and children should be taught to actually practice it. And they should also be taught that these values may not be common everywhere. So if you find people with different set of values, you should respect them, but you should preserve your own values.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's
the flip side of that, Swamiji, since we have to keep an eye on time, is I spoke about greed.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is contentment.
Yeah.
Now, one of the consistent aspects, if well inculcated, is the notion of gratitude and contentment.
Yeah.
What are some of the simple ways, by action and practice, people can incorporate the essence of gratitude and contentment in their day-to-day life?
Yeah.
Work or home?
Yeah, again, it should take us back to what I stated earlier. In Indian tradition, children who are not grateful to their parents will naturally be looked upon as undesirable examples in the family circles. So, one way is to make them understand these values. See, stories of Ramayana, for example. Wonderful stories. Ramayana, Mahabharata, all these stories give a number of examples of this sanctity of kinship and mutual gratitude, mutual obligation, mutual interdependence and interrelatedness integrated relationship, harmonious relationship. That should be inculcated into them. They need not sacrifice this unique heritage in order to succeed. Rather, this heritage can help them to succeed better. In India, you find parents bring the IIT student to the and won't allow a student to make a cup of tea because that time will be wasted. You should work hard so that you get a higher mark. So going to the other extreme, you find there. That's of course going to the other extreme. So the point is, children should be taught that contentment or gratitude is not slavery. Very often that is very often, if you help a person, and if that person shows his gratitude or tells you he is much obliged to you, his obligations to you, that is some kind of a slavery. That's how very often it is looked upon. That is a very cruel, inhuman and unrefined approach. In fact, Mahabharata is a wonderful statement. Kridagne nasti niskriti. Niskriti means liberation, moksha. Kridagna means the opposite of kridagnya, ungrateful. Total lack of gratitude. So, lack of gratitude, ungratitude is a sign of barbarity or unrefinement of a culture. So that should be taught. There is no other. Why you should be grateful? Why we should be cultured? Why we should not steal? Why you should not break law? Why should we drive on the right side? Why should not push through the red light? People don't ask this question. The policeman will catch you. But if people cannot practice these values without fear of punishment, then it shows a very low level of refinement of civilization. So there is you cannot really explain why you should be grateful. So that's one thing. Second, contentment. Contentment, as I mentioned, contentment is a state of mind where you feel peace at home, peace in your own mind, peace and harmony and tranquility in your own mind. When you don't feel the need to look for new sources of enjoyment and pleasure, when you stop looking for new avenues for sense enjoyment, or objects of pleasure or happiness, that state of mind is called contentment. So contentment sometimes can be a great blessing. That is called Atyantikam Sukham, is what Gita says. It is something that our senses of perception or senses of action cannot feel. Buddhigrahim atindriyam. It is atindriya means beyond the senses. It is a feeling of inner tranquility, peace, a complete restfulness. That's why there is no dividing line between the secular and spiritual. In the ultimate analysis, there is no dividing line between the secular and spiritual. If we can look upon what we do as an act of worship, then we can link whatever we do, whatever we speak, to some transcendental spiritual idea. So, from a philosophical point of view, what will help you to evolve contentment within is constant remembrance of the fact of the impermanence or transitoriness of worldly enjoyments. It is known to everyone. Every school student will know that money will not last long. Today's rich man becomes a pauper tomorrow. It's not a philosophical doctrine. It's so obvious. Everyone knows. But what happens, this conviction doesn't often becomes a real attitude. When we are really doing something, we forget this. So, constant remembrance of the fact that empirical achievement or success will not bring lasting peace. And for lasting peace, we need some higher value. And for that, we need a kind of detachment. Detachment should be understood. Freedom from obsessive attachment to sensory pleasures, or even to the ideal of success. We should succeed. We should work for success, but without that obsessive obsession. Because if you're obsessed, then even at the time of working hard to succeed, you'll be free from anxiety whether what I'm going to do will really succeed or not. So when you're anxious, when you're working, a lot of energy will be wasted and your concentration and focus will be disturbed. And after succeeding, again we will be anxious to succeed again. So there is no end. And if we don't succeed, it leads to depression. And even if we succeed, then also that temporary satisfaction doesn't last long. Again, we'll be looking for success. And it's impossible for anyone to be always successful. Impossible. So what happens? We should be able to link ourselves to some transcendental spiritual ideal, as devotion, yoga, or anything, so that we will be looking for something that is beyond pain and pleasure, success and failure. Success should not be the ultimate goal. That's the real solution. Success should not be ultimate goal. We should work for success. But if we can work for success with the full conviction the success cannot be the ultimate goal, then we will have more energy, more focus even while working for success. We may succeed better, in fact. If we don't work for success, you may succeed better. Because a lot of burden, anxiety, heaviness will be lifted off our shoulders. That will help us to concentrate better on what we are doing.
Yeah. Instead of pursuing excellence, if you pursue success, success itself can be an addiction.
Yeah.
That prevents you
excellence
from
the right word. Excellence the right word. Because excellence is balanced success. What is excellence? Success, working for success with the full conviction the success is not ultimate guarantee, ultimate goal. There is that success is not really completely successful. It is only half success. After some time there will be failure. So, but then it should not in any way be a justification for complacency or a kind of inertia or negligence. I can reinforce this idea with one verse from the Gita. Gita, a very wonderful statement. There is a wonderful statement in Gita, extraordinary statement. Lord Krishna explains this in a very dramatic language. He says, on the one hand, there is a person who works very hard with full dedication, obsessive attachment to success, lot of professionalism, competence, full attachment for sensory pleasures, and workaholic, is a workaholic and has to take sleeping pills every day, but he succeeds with full attachment on the one hand. On the other hand, there is another person who puts up the same degree of professionalism, dedication, enthusiasm, minus workaholism, minus obsessive attachment, minus anxiety. So, saktaha karmani avidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryad vidwan tatha asaktaha chikishuhu loka sangraham. This is a verse in the 4th chapter. So, saktaha means those who are fully attached, obsessive attachment, workaholics, always working hard, trying to succeed, and taking plenty of sleeping pills every day, on the one hand. On the other hand, another person is a vidwan. Vidwan here means a yogi who has connected himself to a transcendental spiritual ideal, who meditates, who prays, some spiritual ideal guiding him all through. That person works with the same degree of professionalism, efficiency, and effectiveness, but no anxiety, because he is not attached, obsessively attached to success. So that person is a yogi, the other one is a rogi. Is a That's why psychological problems have no real permanent solutions at the psychological level. The health of mind, or the healthy mindedness without spirituality is impossible. We have to transcend mind for mental health.
Very nice, very nice. Now, how many of you have never meditated before? I see a lot of new faces and walk-ins, so I just want a show of hands. Anyone here who's never meditated before? Okay. So, what we will be doing as a continuation and conclusion of this is, we will try to, like Swamiji said, give you an experience so it becomes your own, something that you shall relish and will only motivate you to develop excellence in the realm of meditation. So this will be your starting block, let us say. So we'll take the next 5 minutes to relax, bring our mind and attention to our inner self, followed by a brief 5 to 8 minute meditation, at the end of which you could make a mental note to yourself. And the form of meditation is very simple. It is Raja Yoga. So what we will be doing is, after the relaxation, we will suggest that you bring your attention to your heart and imagine the very source of light to be in your heart. As human beings, Californians, and from the valley, our mind will already be on 680 or 880 racing away. Try to give it a gentle reminder and bring it back to that source of light. That way, you can disconnect that chain of thought that is distracting you from getting off the starting blocks of meditation. When it is over, I will say that's all. Take your own time and gently open your eyes and come back to the present moment. This whole experience will last for about 10 to 12 minutes, and hopefully what you carry out of this experience will only last a lifetime. Shall we do that? Good. If somebody can get the lights to be a little dim, because it's straight into our eyes, so Swamiji and I will be fighting insomnia then. Thank you. Please sit comfortably. Gently close your eyes. Breathe normally. Bring your attention to your feet. Wiggle your toes. Help them relax. And feel the energy from Mother Earth slowly ascending through your feet to your legs, relaxing them as it proceeds. Your feet are now completely relaxed. Gently move the attention to your calf muscles, to your knees, and your upper legs. Feel them also gently relax. Now move your attention to your waist. Feel your waist relax. Feel your abdomen relax. Move your attention to your stomach. Breathe normally and feel your stomach relax. Now gently move your attention to your back. From your neck all the way to your tailbone. Feel the energy help you relax your entire back. Move your attention to your neck and shoulders. Relax your neck. Feel your shoulder completely melt down and help you relax, feeling no burden whatsoever on them. Feel your upper arms relax, your forearms, the palms of your hands right up to the fingertips. Your hands are completely relaxed. Slowly bring your attention to your face. Feel your jaws relax, the facial muscles, your ears, lips, nose, your forehead. Slowly take that attention to the top of your head and feel your face and the entire head completely relax. Continue to keep your eyes gently closed. No wrinkles on your forehead. Breathe normally and gently bring that attention to your heart. Let it rest there. All along, feel the presence of the source of light in your heart. Continue to breathe normally. Enjoy that parking spot of your attention. Anytime your mind tends to wander, gently remind it to come back to that parking spot and feel the presence of that source of light and continue to meditate. That's all. Gently open your eyes when you feel like. Become aware of the present moment. Make a note of how you feel. What you experience today is a sample of the kind of meditation you practice when you meditate on your heart. This facility was built with a vision to be the spiritual shelter for humanity. And over the few years of its existence, has extended a warm welcome to individuals and organizations that share the same principle of teaching, doing research, and sharing the knowledge of yoga and meditation for no charge. While all spiritual establishments are typically called non-profit organization, there is a special effort like the Ramakrishna Mission, the Vedanta Society, and in the Sahaj tradition, the Heartfulness Institute, to attract, collaborate, and work together in this field of spirituality. So consider this a place you can always come to, learn about meditation, exchange your views, ideas, and help you attain that spiritual comfort where, like Swamiji said, or rather the only abode where you will find a solution to all psychological issues, if any. In addition, the typical work-life balance that one tries to achieve can easily be achieved in the inner realms of your heart and not necessarily at any of the so-called gyms or external places which help you in your physical realm of things. Please feel free to check our bookstores. Also, seek a Heartfulness volunteer if you need more information. I don't know how many of you are aware, but I'd like to share a simple fact. I'm not even sure if I mentioned it earlier. Our spiritual guide, Kamlesh Patel, at a very young age, had a vision of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, telling him, I'm no longer here. So if you need to further your knowledge about Raj Yoga, you should go and meet Sri Ramchandra of Shahjahanpur. That's how his spiritual journey started. And in all my interactions with him, I have seen an amazingly deep sense of respect and gratitude to Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa in his heart, as well as the hierarchy of Sahaj Marg has had for Swami Vivekananda. When Daji came to this place for the first time and meditated, he shared with me that he felt Swami Vivekananda's presence all through the meditation session. And being myself, I told him, I haven't seen him, I've only seen his pictures and photographs, so how do I know he was here? And he said, just share with me, what did you see as a color during your meditation today? So I said, maybe peach. I don't know, I wasn't really looking for any color. He said, that is right. It was light orange. And he said, as you meditate deeper and deeper, you will develop a sense of sensitivity which will help you experience what you're experiencing and also understand the context of all those experiences. And each one has it different, each one it is unique. So like Swamiji said, experience alone can explain experience. So I hope all of us, for having taken the time to be in Swamiji's august presence and listen to his words of wisdom, felt the time spent here was worth it. And we thank you for coming. And Swamiji, heartfelt thanks.
Thank you.
For sharing whatever you shared. Is Brother Venkat here? Swamiji, a token of appreciation from our side. This is a book written by our spiritual guide Kamlesh Patel called Designing Destiny. So thank you very much again. Thank you, everybody. Lunch is served, so please do have lunch. Go ahead.
That's always fun. Yeah, please join us for lunch there, and thank you for coming.